Welcome to Ike Comics Draw Process. I'm going to draw page 7 of episode 2 of First Sun and Sword today. Okay, this is the first page of the new scene. The last page left off with Farah telling Sword, keep fighting, referring to his infection he's fighting while he's sleeping. And then we immediately go into his memory, where his father's telling him, keep fighting. This whole page is his father training him in sword fighting, giving him advice, admonishing him to become a great king. And so it's just, we see his father in the first shot delivering his line. There's a little bit of back and forth with the wooden swords. And then a conclusion to the sword fighting. I had his father swing it kind of wildly and yell, like act a little scary, just to see how his son would react. And then they kind of share a laugh probably on the next page. So I'm just sketching that out. That's all I know. That's all the script really says as I'm going in to draw this out. I have started, I guess, a while back. I try to share my practice here on these videos. And I was trying different things. There was a while there that I was making sure to do anatomy practice for like 30 minutes or an hour, 5 times a week, maybe 3 times a week, mainly anatomy, sometimes life drawing. And I haven't been doing that as much lately. One thing that interrupted it was finishing the last issue. It was 1 page per week for a little over a year. And I was trying to figure out writing the next issue, and I've been figuring out printing the first issue and stuff like that. So I was behind. I just was struggling to make the time to maintain my practice because it was really interrupted. I couldn't just keep drawing the next page of my comic. And then I started this new issue, and I'm trying to do 2 or even 3 pages a week. So I'm not making as much time to do those practices I was doing of anatomy sketching and life drawing stuff. I have reinstituted it, but the way I'm approaching it now is that I pull open a PDF of an art book. I've got quite a few. Anatomy book is what I'm doing right now, but I open it up, find a piece of anatomy, just kind of scroll through, find something interesting, and draw it. And if I keep going and 15 minutes go by, perfect. If it only takes 5, fine. But if I do that every day, then that's a practice. It's better than not doing it at all, and that's what I've been doing. But I just don't think I can do 30 minutes or an hour every day. But just, 5 minutes, one little piece of anatomy that I will remember, and I don't care to remember the names for it, but I will. Next time I'm drawing a page, I'll be able to draw that hand in that position, and I'll just have it a little better. The teeth in the mouth, how those things interact. I'll just have it a little better. So I'm looking forward to that. I also decided to try out a nib, a G-pin. So I always use Micron, and that has been surprising. I just tried it out yesterday. I've been debating it for a while. Decided to go ahead and make the purchase and give it a try. I've stuck with my approach almost. I've barely varied it over the years. I've only done like 1 comic that was brushwork only, that didn't have pin lines. And it was earlier on. And then I've really just tried to grow in my one discipline, my one approach, and not worry about other skills as much. So what I have done is use a Micron pin, felt tipped pin, and I use an 05, which is kind of thin, I will say, and I have to hold it very perpendicular to the paper to be able to get a consistent thickness of line, of a good thickness, because directly perpendicular to the paper is when the pen head is touching most fully. You're going to get a full line. And instead of using a tool that creates a line weight variation, I just use one that's one solid line that's always the same thickness. That was doing that eliminated the choice, the option of using varying line weight. It forced me to develop other skills to convey depth and weight and things than using line weight. So I developed in other areas, and I kept that restriction on myself. It's possible that I'm changing. I mean, something that's already happening when I hold the pen, sometimes I do a quick stroke and it tapers off. It's not a solid thickness. And these little gestural lines, these lines that vary in thickness a bit around the eye, on foliage, that's how I pencil. Like when I'm holding a pencil, I'm gonna have little gestures and things. It feels more natural, and that's what I do, and I end up doing it with my pen some. So I'm fighting my own nature to try to stay with that solid line thickness consistently. The Micron also, because I try to hold it perpendicular to the paper, it's very vertical, and that means that my eye can't see what I'm inking. That unless I lean my head over, I can't really see much of what I'm inking. So I'm kind of inking blindly. Now that creates its own unique result. It's because it's just sort of mechanically accomplished. It's going to create a certain look as a result, but it makes me a little out of touch with what I'm doing. But with the G pen, I can hold it at an angle and my hand's further away, and it has a very, fine, the nib is kind of finer than a micron's thickness. So I can see what I'm doing really well. And it's much like when I hold a pencil, where I can hold the pencil diagonally to the paper, see exactly where I'm penciling. I'm looking at the paper. I'm looking at what I'm building with the pencil. You can do the same thing, with the nib or a brush. It works with brushes too. And it can be done with a micron, but you got to tilt that thing sideways, and that will wear out the felt tip more on one side. That can be a problem. And the line, the line weight can be a little different or problematic. So, I don't know. I don't want to start doing a full-on, manga, cross-hatching a lot of lines. I don't want to go far away from what I'm doing. But the tests I ran, it looks good. It's still my style. The lines just have a little more energy to them, and it feels a little better when I do it. It's a little messier. It's a little messier and riskier to the page too. But with the micron, I can kind of do the same thing, turn it on its side. And I think I am going to try that before switching to G-Pen. For consistency on the comic, I'm just curious what results I can get, but not be too inconsistent with the current comic book's look. But if I turn it on its side, the line is not its full line weight. It's going to thin it out. So I'm going to try it with an 0.8 micron instead of an 0.5. So I'll go up a size, but then tilt it on its side so the line comes out similar to like the 0.5. It'll be thinner. And then I'll have more variation. I'll see what I'm doing, and I'll treat it a bit like a G-Pen. So, yeah, I think that's going to be giving me a good result, and my little test on that seemed to work well too. I've also recently experimented with ink wash. I've done a little bit of it before. I'm not super comfortable with it yet. The thought of throwing it on an entire comic page and not being able to, undo that is kind of scary. But I might move that direction, because what I'm doing with my colors is like the main thing I'm trying to do is just add value, add shading, darker and lighter areas. And so my colors, I intentionally choose darker and lighter. But I've considered going black and white, but I don't want to lose that shading, that variation of light to dark, separating foreground and background. But yeah, the ink wash could help. Like it would basically look like watercolor grays, blacks. One, two, three. 3 panels of the sword fighting. The starting and ending point are very similar. It's like a similar camera angle. They're the same size in the shot. It creates a nice rhythm to kind of get to the end point. Yeah, I mean, I look at these pencils I'm making here. They're expressive. It's not like my ink work. So if I could capture that energy with my inks, then I think I'll really be getting somewhere. Very, very well crafted in my, become a really good craftsman with that. So yeah, I'm interested to see. Let's see, it's, I don't know, 8 years in on making comics, 9, something like that. And yeah, still trying new things. I've done digital painting more than I've ever done. I've done vector line art and like animation character design stuff and backgrounds in the vector. Never did that before. Still learning, still trying new things, and I've been glad to do that. Still with my comics, the movement seems to always be towards something. I feel I'm not just making up a story. I think my work reveals to me my natural tendency, my natural nature becomes like available through all the work, all the practice, and it's all moving in a direction. And I've always said that, but it's a strong sense, and it's a great sense to have, because feeling motivated and excited and happy about what you do is the feeling of not getting what you want, but feeling like you're about to get what you want. It's feeling that there's a story here and it's moving, somewhere. I see the movement. So that's cool that it's going to help me be motivated when I see that way. But I feel like it's true that there's from the first page I've ever drawn to this one, there's a movement in a direction that I can see when I look back. And then the fun part is imagining, well, then where's this going? I can picture what my art was like a year ago. What's it going to look like in a year from now in the future? And if I can get at least, I don't need to know what it looks like, but if I get a sense of that direction, I keep moving that way. See what happens. It's exciting. But yeah, this direction is lines that are getting a little more expressive. It's a little more spontaneous and expressive and cartooned in a way, like a little less work on the composition, more directly from imagination, much less referencing and stuff. Yeah. So there's that. And then, of course, I want to move towards, even though this is just a part-time thing for me, I want to move towards high production, high output. I'm getting where when I color pages, when I lay those flat colors in, I can do that in like 30 minutes or less. So if I have the colors, kind of the color palette planned out, which I end up doing, in an earlier page usually of that issue, because I stick with kind of a limited palette. So, that's getting really quick. I draw the word balloons on the page now, so the lettering goes really quick. Yeah, it's coming together. Yeah, that's just really important to me. I've done short comics, and that's fun, and people can enjoy those. People have, but very few. It's really hard to make comics. Very few people make, 20 issues, 100 issues, 20, trade paperbacks. Like, that rarely happens. But when it comes to especially the world of manga, a lot of people hold out on reading something. Then they're like, oh, there's like 20 volumes of this. I'm going to get into it now. They want the length and depth of story that comes with that. And I want that kind of audience. I want readers that are looking for a story to get into. And that means it can't end in 100 pages. It needs, thousands of pages. So, got to get faster and more efficient with the, with the art to get that out. You'll notice the shadow placements are somewhat consistent with, like, if the sun was in a certain position, it's kind of staying in that position. But those shadows on the ground and on their figures there's intentional use of that. It's creating just a better composition. Like the shadows on the father here in the background are to separate him, from the boy in the foreground. The boy there, he has more shadow on him, but he's not fully in shadow. He has more contrast, like more dark areas and light. The father doesn't have that. Like his sleeves and stuff are not going to have extra shadow and depth implied, because that's going to bring him forward and make it seem like he's as close to the eye as the boy is. But the shadow on the dad's leg, on his shirt, I guess that's a shirt coming down like a skirt, but that is to make sure the boy's arms stand out off of that black background. So I'm thinking those things through. This shadow on his under his arm here, on his chest, that's to add weight to the bottom of the panel and a nicer composition. And just, just kind of use that black to just make sure the eye just doesn't go to, like, if I left a little white spot there, the eye could go there. It's going to sort of leave it open. It's going to create that positive space, and I don't want that. So just empty it out, cover that whole area. And here with the dad, his shadow's on the ground and it's coming in front of him towards the boy. That's like making his shadow kind of loom over the boy, but it's creating a heavier bottom to that panel. It's to help with the composition to look balanced and look weighted towards the ground. I chose to let his sword go past the panel borders. I don't do a lot of that. I'm trying to do more. I'm trying to step out and do a little more risky things, expressive, dynamic things with my panels. This was a real easy choice. Like, it was just, when I'm drawing it, it was really obvious that his sword could just go a little bit past the border. and then we could see the whole thing, and that would just work well. I don't want to do it arbitrarily. I think there's ways that I've seen it done, to me, too much. And here is the finished page. These colors are almost the same colors as the earlier pages, but because this is a different time and place, I have adjusted them some. So they're a little more, I guess they're moved more towards, yellow and less orange maybe? So almost like, in a way that could make them seem more aged. But not too much of a change. It'll fit very consistently with the other parts. And if they were mixed together or next to each other, they look like, pretty harmonious palettes that are they're not really complementary. They're very similar. Because again, I'm trying to keep it similar, keep this straightforward. I wonder what I will do though when we end up, like, let's say at nighttime. If we end up in nighttime, I'm going to have to use different colors, and I guess I'll go with complementary. So it'll be interesting to see what I come up with. That won't be for a while though, if at all. I think towards the end of this issue, we'll go ahead and make it nighttime. I'm not sure, or at least evening. Well, that's it for this week. Be the practice of your art. I will keep sharing mine here as best as I can, and continuing to be that practice and make this book. See you next time.